Meghan Markle's recent revelation of suffering from postpartum preeclampsia on her podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, has been met with skepticism and criticism. The author argues that Markle's timing and the lack of previous public mention of this serious medical condition raise questions about authenticity and suggest a pattern of exploiting personal experiences for self-promotion. The author contrasts Markle's approach with that of Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, who faced a life-threatening childbirth complication but handled it with grace and dignity, focusing on supporting relevant charities rather than self-promotion. The author begins by framing Markle's announcement as another dramatic bombshell, highlighting her tendency to generate controversy and emphasizing the seemingly calculated timing of the revelation. The podcast episode, ostensibly focused on female entrepreneurship, is presented as a vehicle for Markle to insert a personal narrative, shifting the focus away from the intended topic and onto herself. The author questions the timing of the revelation, noting that such a serious medical condition would typically generate significant media attention, yet Markle's alleged experience seems to have gone unnoticed until now. The author then focuses on the lack of corroborating evidence for Markle's claim. The absence of previous public mention, the lack of details regarding the timeline, hospital, medical professionals involved, or any media coverage at the time, is highlighted as inconsistent with the typical public response to such a significant medical event. The author points out that Markle, known for her openness about personal matters, would typically have publicized such a serious health crisis. Yet this incident remained conspicuously absent from previous interviews, her memoir, or other public statements. The author suggests that this lack of evidence casts doubt on the veracity of Markle's claim. The author then introduces a direct comparison with Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, who experienced a life-threatening placental eruption during childbirth. Sophie's experience is presented as a stark contrast to Markle's. Sophie's near-fatal condition, requiring emergency medical intervention and a royal visit from Queen Elizabeth II, was widely reported and acknowledged. However, unlike Markle, Sophie did not use her traumatic experience for personal gain or self-promotion. Instead, she chose to support the Thames Valley Air Ambulance Service, which played a crucial role in her survival. This comparison serves to highlight the difference in approach and underscores the author's criticism of Markle's perceived self-serving narrative. The author emphasizes the inconsistencies in Markle's narrative, questioning the lack of any public record of her alleged postpartum preeclampsia. The author points out that if the event had truly occurred, it would likely have been widely reported in the media, mentioned in biographies, or documented in some form. The author suggests that the absence of such evidence casts doubt on the authenticity of Markle's claim and reinforces the perception of a calculated attempt to generate publicity and sympathy. The author further argues that Markle's handling of the situation contrasts sharply with her typical public persona. The author notes that Markle usually uses personal experiences to garner sympathy and attention, yet in this instance, the revelation seems strangely understated and lacking in the emotional intensity typically associated with her public appearances. The author suggests that this lack of emotional resonance further undermines the credibility of her claim. The author concludes by criticizing Markle's perceived pattern of borrowing or appropriating the experiences of others for her own narrative. The author suggests that whether it's Sophie's near-fatal childbirth experience or the struggles of other women, Markle consistently seems to find ways to relate to such experiences, ultimately redirecting attention back to herself and her own narrative. The author uses the phrase "confessions of a copycat" to encapsulate this perceived pattern of behavior, suggesting that Markle's actions are driven by a desire for self-promotion rather than genuine empathy or a desire to raise awareness about postpartum preeclampsia. The overall tone is highly critical, emphasizing the author's skepticism towards Markle's claim and highlighting the perceived lack of authenticity and the exploitation of personal experiences for self-promotion. The comparison with Sophie serves to further reinforce the author's criticism, highlighting the stark contrast in how these two women have handled similar life-threatening situations.